All right, welcome to the S.E.M podcast. Jack and Zach are here again tonight, and we're joined by our friend Joelle Wallace, as you knew, who are in the mission, now Joelle Fryer. Joelle, it's so good to have you. What part of the world are you calling from tonight?
I am coming from Medford, Oregon, so very down south on the California border of Oregon, but beautiful place.
Medford, Oregon. Very beautiful. Awesome. Well, Joelle, we talked a little bit about the podcast, and you'd listened to a few of our episodes, which is great. I would imagine you're familiar with our format. We talk pre-mission, reaction of getting your call, going to Scotland, and then we'll jump over the mission, talk about life since you've been home. Then we'll go back through areas, companions, and any other fun things that you want to share with us. So I'll turn the time to you.
Okay, so pre-mission. I graduated from high school in 1996, so a long time ago. I went to Rick's College for a couple years, and I graduated from there. It was just a 2-year college then. So right after that, I was like, I didn't know what to do, so I just kind of followed everybody, went to BYU. And I have to say, I really struggled. I don't know what it was, but I just didn't fit in. So came home, and I'm from Medford, Oregon, so this is where I grew up. So came home to Medford and thought, well, I don't know what to do now. And it was just kind of working, kind of trying to figure out life. And a mission kept popping up in my mind. I have 2 older brothers, and they both have served missions and loved it and had fond memories, positive experiences that they had shared with me. And so just really started praying about it and decided, you know what, I can do that. So it was kind of funny, though, telling them, especially my brothers, hey, I really want to go on a mission. And I think they had some funny experiences with sister missionaries. And they were like, well, don't be like this. Don't be like this. So what some of the sister missionaries were like, they were sometimes a little bit catty and couldn't do things on their own. And I was like, okay, I won't be like that. I won't be like that. I'll be a cool sister missionary. And back then, I mean, this was 1999 when I got my mission call. There wasn't a whole lot of sister missionaries going out. So I was just super excited. My family was really supportive. So that's kind of how it got to that.
Cool.
Point.
I love it.
Yeah, I never had wanted to serve a mission. It wasn't on my radar, but probably the best decision I've ever made. So.
I love to do that.
Yeah. So there you go.
What about your reaction of when you opened your call?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, my last name was Wallace, which is very Scottish. So I get my mission call, and of course I'm super ecstatic because my brothers had both gone to foreign missions and they had to learn Spanish. And I was a little bit terrified of that. I think I got a D in Spanish in high school. So I was like, I don't think I can learn a language, but I definitely wanted to go foreign. And so it was the perfect combination. I don't know how both of you felt about it, but it was like, I'll do that. That sounds amazing. Yeah. And of course, we all just joked that I'm sure whoever decided where I was going on a mission just saw my name and said, hey, we need to send her to Scotland.
There you go.
Very cool. Very cool. But I don't know about you guys, but I remember picturing Scotland, like living in like a stone house, like having a fireplace, like feeding the fire where it's really cold outside. And so I had this funny, like rural, very archaic picture of Scotland, but I was so excited. So
that's not how it was.
Not quite. I never did get to have a fireplace. I mean, I think we had those electric ones. Do they still have those?
Oh yeah. Definitely.
Definitely wasn't out in the middle of the woods in a stone cottage.
No thatch roofs.
So it was pretty awesome. I should give a little bit of background too, and maybe this will go into the next part of my life now. So when I went to Rick's College, I met this boy from Oregon named Todd Fryer. And he was the same age as me. We were both just 18, and we were just good friends. And but he lived just an hour and a half north of me here in Oregon. And he went on his mission. He went to Connecticut. And he came back after his mission, and he took me out on a date. And he's like, what are you up to, Joelle? And I said, I'm going on a mission. And he was so mad at me. This is right after I got my mission call. But I have to tell you, he is my husband now. So I
Wow.
wrote to him on his mission just as a good friend. I mean, we never like thought of each other that way. He was going on a mission and it was just fun. But anyway, I looked him up after my mission, and he had been home for a couple of years. And anyway, we got back together. He was at BYU at the time. I moved to Salt Lake after my mission. It was right after 9/11, which I'll tell you at the end of my mission. I moved to Salt Lake during the Olympics and was trying to get into nursing school there. And I had to get residency, though. It was really expensive if you're an Oregon resident to go to University of Utah. So I was living there with some friends during the Olympics, working at the hospital, like just the time of my life. And I applied to school here in Oregon and got in. So we were becoming a little bit more like, hey, I kind of like you. And then I told him, I said, hey, I'm moving to Oregon. He's like, what is wrong with you? So I moved to Oregon and we stayed in touch. And actually, he ended up moving out here and we got married in 2002. Anyway, we've been out here ever since. So other things about my life, I have 4 kids. I did end up going to nursing school. I was a surgical nurse for a long time. About 3 years ago, I got an offer to teach high school. Kind of funny being a nurse. I teach a medical careers class and I continue to be a nurse, but my students get their nursing assistant license, phlebotomy license, things like that. So I'm
That's
a nurse
cool.
teacher. Yeah. So pretty fun. I have 4 kids. My oldest is at Rick's College now. She's just finishing her freshman year. So pretty fun to see her going there.
Cool,
and I have 3 girls, Claire and Audrey, and then I have a little boy and his name is Wallace. So
that's so cool. I love it.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So a little bit about my life now. So
That's fun.
yeah.
Where did you go to school in Oregon?
I went to I'm going to have to think about this. It's up north. I actually didn't attend the campus. It was at a campus here down in Ashland, which is close to me.
Okay.
It is, gosh, why am I totally blanking?
It's not one of the major schools that is that what you're saying? It's not Oregon State or Oregon?
It isn't Oregon State.
Okay.
No, and it's not U of O either. It's not the deck. So it is Oregon Health Science University. So
nice.
OHSU up in Portland. So
very cool.
Anyway,
I was curious because I lived in Central Oregon for a few years. So
you did?
Wasn't sure if you were.
Is Central Oregon like Bend?
No. I guess I lived in Corvallis, so.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I think I did hear you say that to somebody else. So
yeah, exactly.
Were you a Beaver?
I worked with the Beavers for a period of time,
right.
but
we're Duck fans here, so.
Yeah, I don't talk about the Beavers anymore. They kind of they stab me in the back. So, nonetheless, let's get back to you, Joelle. So timeline. You said you left in 1999. What month did you leave?
So I actually got my mission call in 99. I didn't leave till March of 2000. So it was kind of a funny time of year. I don't know how old you guys are, but it was Y2K.
Yeah, that's true.
That? So everybody was a little bit nervous, like, are you even going to get to go or the airlines all be down? Like, what's going to happen? So, but one thing that was really cool is here in Medford, we actually have one of the first mini temples. Yeah. And it was being built. It was going to be dedicated after I left. And so my dad was really good friends with the contractor. So I got to walk through the temple before it was finished. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
But I left right before it was dedicated in March of 2000. So.
Okay. And then timeline wise, you got home. Let's see if it would be August or September of 2001.
Yep. September of 2001. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. That kind of changed things.
Oh, yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, now take us to your experience in the mission. I think, were you one of the first ones to go to the Preston MTC?
So I think, because I was listening to Paul Williams, and he was one of the first groups. He was that summer before me. So it had been open almost a year when I went there.
I knew it wasn't
really new.
Knew it wasn't very old by that point in time. So cool.
Yeah.
Well, take us to the MTC, talk to us from there, and then feel free to go through areas, companions, and your experience in Scotland.
Okay. So September 8th, I left, flew straight to Preston, England. And I have give a shout out to my parents. I'm sure they'll listen to this. So I actually listened to my dad. He said, you need to make sure and pack a change of clothes in your carry-on because you're going really far. I was like, okay. And I did. And my luggage ended up going to Hawaii. So I was really glad that I did that. And I had an extra change of clothes for the next day, but ended up coming back. The reason why I know it to Hawaii, because it had a Hawaiian sticker on it. And I was like, man, Hawaii sounds pretty nice. But
Wow.
I mean, opposite directions, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I made it to Hawaii without my luggage and went to the MTC. And we didn't have a very big group of people. I think they kind of switched off which missions they were going to. So we had a group of, there was 8 of us going to Scotland, but there was others going to like Manchester and Leeds and whatever other missions there were. So I didn't feel like there was a whole lot. And it was President and Sister White, and I believe they're the first MTC presidents in Preston. So it was, experience. I'm really glad I didn't have to be in the MTC a really long time because it got to be very like, just do the same thing every day. But I did enjoy it. And I don't know, did you both go to the Preston MTC? Do you remember the duck pond? There was that huge duck pond out there.
Oh, yeah.
In March when we went. So the ducks were like in full swing, like just having a great time. It was pretty funny I really remember the ducks. And I know that seems a bit silly. But the other things I remember about the MTC is they taught us how to eat correctly. Like how to place your fork and your spoon at the top and eat with your knife and fork at the same time. I don't know if you remember that, but I thought
that's good.
cool.
I
And
didn't
I
get
still
that.
eat that way too. So
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, that influenced me. And I'm obsessed with oatmeal. And my gosh, the Scots make the best oatmeal. And one of the cooks was from Scotland. And every morning I'd be like, what do you have for me? And you had the best oatmeal. So I don't know why. There you go. I'm still obsessed with oatmeal.
Was it like a porridge that he'd make you?
Yeah,
Okay.
porridge. Yeah,
Nice.
exactly.
That's cool.
So, yeah, I guess I should call it that. But to me, at the time, it was oatmeal. But
same thing.
it is the same thing. But
same stuff, just a different name, right?
Yeah. But I wish I could meet him and be like, how did you make it? Because I've never been able to do that.
The chef's kiss, like the perfection of it, right?
Yeah, something about it.
Cool.
Other things that I thought were really cool about the MTC is we had a lot of missionaries that were from Europe that were just at the MTC to learn how to be missionaries. They weren't learning a language, but they were going back. Like we had a lot of Russian missionaries and Romanian, which I thought was really cool. So I was able to help them a little bit. They knew English enough to be there, but weren't really going back to teach in English. So anyway, I love that about the MTC. And I don't know if it's gotten a lot bigger or anything, but it was pretty small. It was there.
It depends.
Yeah.
Were there other sisters going to Scotland?
Were there other sisters? There was one other sister in my group, but there was probably 10 of us in the whole MTC, sister missionaries. So we were definitely a small group. So there were 6 elders and 2 sisters, and my companion was Sister Burton. And you should probably contact her. She actually married somebody from my mission. So Chris Rogers is who she married. So Anna and Chris Rogers, and I think they'd be great to have on this podcast. So, but I'll mention some other names too. Yeah. I think that's one of the questions you asked. So Anna Burton was my companion, and she was just so much fun and just this cute girl. I think all the boys had crushes on her. She was just really cute, but so fun and just excited to be there. And she was a really fantastic missionary. So a good first companion to have, but we were both just nervous and excited together. But anyway, so we took the train, and I listened to Paul talking about them. I do not recollect, but I must have been just so nervous going up to Scotland. I don't remember that train ride at all, but I know I did take a train ride. So, and I wish I could go back, because now that I know a lot more about, I don't know, England and the UK, and I wish I would have paid more attention to that. But whatever, I was nervous heading up there. So
I agree.
Yeah, we can relate.
Yep. So we got picked up by the elders. I think it was the elder, I wrote them down, Elder Rio and Elder Kurt, and they were the APs at the time, picked us up at the train station. We went in a big van, drove us to 51 Spila Road. So made it there. And the sisters, we were, of course, very everybody, especially Sister Clyde, loved the sister missionaries. There's only 2 of us. We stayed in the princess room. I don't know if they still have that to this day, but I think all the elders slept like in a basement with bunk beds or something. And we got this beautiful room in this mansion, and it was so wonderful. So President and Sister Clyde were my mission presidents, and they were just about to go home. So as much as I loved them, I don't feel like I got to know them very well. But President Clyde was just really very gung-ho, very strict. You know, you follow the rules, you'll be a good missionary, but really set a good precedence for me. So I love the Clydes. Like I said, though, they left in June or July, so I didn't get to know them very well. But I remember they fed us neeps and tatties. Did you guys eat?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And I was just, again, like, I'm a foodie, so I was like, oh, this is so good. I loved neeps and tatties. Anytime anybody served them, I was like, oh, I love this. But I have been able to make those before, so I love neeps and
awesome.
tatties. Yeah. Let's see. I took notes all day, so here we go. Actually, the last few weeks. So then, Elder, I think we probably didn't do a whole lot the rest of that day, but the next day we went up to Arthur's Seat. Did both of you do that as missionaries your first day? Or we called it Pratt's Hill. Because Parley P. Pratt went there. So went up to Arthur's Seat or Pratt's Hill. And I remember the elders just saying, we're going to give you some time to dedicate yourself, to say a prayer, to really think about your mission and what kind of missionary you want to be. And they also told us, we want you to think of a number of how many people you'll be baptizing. And I was like, really? Like a number? But I did it. And I came up with this crazy number. I'm not going to say it, but I actually was able to accomplish it. So I know that sounds really silly.
Hey, that's awesome.
For somebody with, just starting out as a missionary and not really understanding what you're really getting yourself into, how hard it really is. But to be able to, really pray about something and have that fulfilled that's something I still think about a lot.
That means you probably didn't say 200 or 300 like Zach and I, but that's good.
I did it. But I do think about that a lot too. Because when we went chapping, we went chapping all the time, right? Our saying, I don't know what year you guys served your missions, but our saying was, for every house we chap, somebody in South America is getting baptized. So we worked really, really hard for South America. We were like, every house we chap, there is somebody getting baptized down there. And one of my brothers served his mission in South America, so I knew what it was like. And they were baptizing right and left. So, in fact, my brother was told on his mission to slow down. Like, you need to wait till the whole family's ready, till they're really, really ready before. And in Scotland, that never would have happened. So, yeah, I didn't pray. I didn't get the answer 200 or 300. So, no.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So Arthur's Seat or Pratt's Hill was really like, for me, the time where I really knew I was a missionary, and I knew that I wanted to work hard and be really good, be what the Lord wanted me to be. So I loved that part of getting ready to start a mission. So and then later that day, I went out with one of the sister missionaries that was serving in that area, and I was terrified. It was probably one of the most terrifying things. Like, you practice in MTC, like your little door approaches or whatever, but just cold call like that, and people think you're weird. But it was a good experience. We also went to like a nursing home and visited with somebody, and so it was a good experience, but a little bit scary.
Yeah, very scary when they don't speak the language you speak. It's so hard.
They kind of understand us a little bit, but yeah, I tell people, they're like, sometimes they'll ask, just not really thinking, like, what language did you speak? Well, English, but not really. So it just takes a few months, didn't it, to really understand.
Oh yeah,
what we're saying. So, but they can understand us because they watch American TV or things like that. So. But yeah, and I have a funny story about that, but I'll tell you a little bit later about learning the language of the Scots. So, anyway, my first mission companion in the MTC was Sister Smith, Sarah Smith. And I don't know why this is, but my first 3 companions all married elders from my mission. So Sister Smith met and married Elder Cook. And they would be a fabulous couple if you did couples or anything like that to talk about the mission with. So Sarah and Riley Cook is their names. And then Anna and Chris, I want to say Burton, but Rogers would be fantastic too. And then my second mission companion in the mission, actually, her name is Jamie Roper, and she married Chris Jensen. So, and they all served here. So, oh well, whatever. They were all really great missionaries. I don't think they did anything they weren't supposed to do, but kind of funny. Anyway, so my first mission companion was Sister Smith, and I think she was from Indiana, and we went to Alloa. Did either of you serve in Alloa? Or okay,
not directly.
I was in the district. I was the district leader over the sisters in Alloa.
Okay, so you were in Sterling, right?
I was covering there from Falkirk.
Okay, all right, wow. So our district was they had 2 elders in Sterling and 2 sisters in Alloa. And they were a little bit less strict, I think, with elders and sisters. Like, we called them a double date district. So we had 2 elders and 2 sisters, and we were in the ward together. And that's where I met Paul Williams. He was there with Elder Loganberg. And Alloa was absolutely beautiful, just outside of Sterling. And the most fantastic thing about that is that that's where William Wallace was from, or like that's where he fought his battles. So there was Wallace Monument and Wallace Pub and Wallace Street. And so it was really fun to be there and then have my name tag that says Sister Wallace. I don't know if you went to Wallace Monument, but at the base of it at the time was a huge statue of Mel Gibson, because that movie had just come out, Braveheart. It was so fun. They took it down when he said some things he probably shouldn't have, but I had a t-shirt with William Wallace as Mel Gibson on it, and it was really fun to be there as Sister Wallace. So it felt pretty cool.
Would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really fun. But I got there, and Sister Smith was the hardest working missionary I have ever met to this day. She just had 3 months left. You would have known it. She got up and ran all day long. We never even came in for lunch. We would take our lunch with us. She had recently baptized a family. They were the Hendersons. So that was James and Jill, and they had a daughter, Kylie, and they were all baptized. Another woman they had recently baptized, her name was Maddie. And then another family, it was a dad and his son. And they had recently been baptized. So there was a lot of success in this branch in Alloa. And everywhere I went, people would talk about Sister Smith and her former companion. And I can't remember her name. I wish I could. They must have been just a dynamic duo. Everybody was like, oh, I miss her. I miss her so much. She was so amazing. Everybody talked about her. And I remember saying to Sister Smith, I said, how am I ever going to fill her shoes? And she looked at me. And this was honestly like the turning point for me in like how the person I wanted to be in my life. I think about this still. She said, you have to fill your own shoes, Sister Wallace. And so that was really powerful for me to be able to okay, you're right. I need to be my own missionary. I need to be who I'm supposed to be. And we got to work, and she was just the best trainer that any missionary could have. She followed the rules. I don't remember which mission president was, but the rules were exact obedience. I don't know if you guys practice that, but it's exact obedience. Yep. And Sister Smith was exactly that. She was exact obedience. She got up when she was supposed to. She studied hard. We left the flat at whatever time it was we were supposed to leave at the time. I can't remember, 8:30, 9:30. And we were out all day until you're supposed to come in at 9. And she was absolutely fantastic for me. And cool. I really just grew to love her and appreciate her and her hard work. And of course, Elder Williams talked a little bit about this area. Him and Elder Loganberg were together. And Elder Williams was a very serious missionary, a very wonderful missionary. And Loganberg was not so serious. He was just so much fun. And so I loved seeing kind of that dynamics of, you can be a successful missionary and be really great, but also have a lot of fun. So we had a lot of fun. We went on P days. We'd go tour all the castles, and and that's those are the fun things that you don't think about when you get to go on a mission. And I think in Scotland we were kind of really, how did you say it, spoiled, because we got to go to this beautiful country and see these beautiful places on our P days. And, it was just such a beautiful area. In Alloa, we were kind of out more in villages, as opposed to Stirling was more of a bigger city. So I really love that. There was a branch there in Alloa. It was right next to our flat. And the missionaries had just been working really, really hard. And in fact, before I left, it became a ward. So that was really just amazing. I don't know if it still is today, but it became a ward at the time. There was other people that the elders were teaching, and they actually got married and then were baptized. It was a whole family too. So it was Jackie and Eamon. Elder Williams didn't talk about him, but I'm pretty sure they got baptized when he was there. So they were just this really neat family that had been investigating the church for a long time. The Hendersons, though, who had just been baptized right before I got there, they just took me in and they called me Grommet. I actually have a cup from them. Do you remember that show? Well,
Yes.
So they called me Sister Grommet. And they were just this quirky, like wonderful family. They just took me in, and as this new missionary, I just needed that love like a family had, and they'd have us over for dinner. And they had just been baptized maybe a few weeks before I got there. So very new members. So we still spent a lot of time with them. And I'd love to see where they are now. And they actually went to the temple a year later, and just amazing to see that family grow. And there was a lot of other people that the sisters were already teaching that were baptized in that area too. A lot of young kids. Kylie, she was one of the Henderson's kids. And then we were teaching a boy named John and his sisters, Georgina and Linda. And their parents were really supportive, but not necessarily interested in the church. And sometimes I think about that now. I wish their parents had been more supportive, of course, at the time, but I think they probably would have stayed a lot more active if we had been maybe more mindful of that or something. I don't know. But I taught a lot of kids on my mission, teenage age kids. So I really enjoyed that. I teach in high school now, so I must like teenagers for some reason. So I really connected with them and loved them. And we saw a lot of success in Alloa, and I attribute a lot of that to Sister Smith and her previous companion too, who just worked so hard and really laid that foundation for me. So when I think of my mission, I think of Alloa, and then I also think of Dundee, and I went there a little bit later, I'll tell you about. So there was one thing that I really loved is there was members in Scotland that were actually American. And I found this in my journal. On the 4th of July, they made a barbecue for us. I had this picture of us. We invited the Hendersons over, and we're having this little barbecue in Scotland. Like on this, it was a barbecue. It was seriously like this big. I don't know, it had like coals in it or something. And we had hamburgers.
It was like a disposable, right?
Yeah. It was so funny.
That was bizarre for me too when I first saw it. It was very, very different.
Yeah, it was different. In our branch, though, we just had this amazing branch. We had President Campbell was the branch president, and then when we became a ward, we had Bishop Paddington, and they were just so supportive of the missionaries, and the ward was just absolutely amazing. In fact, they were. There's a story about them not too long ago. In I don't know if you guys know this, but they have like a European version of the enzyme now. Or not the enzyme or whatever it's called. So they had a story about their ward, and it was fun to see some of the pictures of them and stuff. So just a really fantastic, supportive branch and ward. And so cool. Anyway, about 3 months later, I got my second companion, who's Sister Roper. She's, like I said, married to Elder Jensen. So nice. Jamie Jensen is her name now, and Chris Jensen. They would be fun to talk too, I think. And Sister Roper was a fantastic companion too. She brought a little bit more where Sister Smith was very hardworking. Sister Roper brought to me some of the like quirky, and she wasn't from Utah, but she kind of had that like Utah Mormon feel. Like she just knew everything about like every general authority, and like she just had this amazing knowledge of the gospel. and we would listen to tapes, and they had like John By the Way tapes. And I think you probably know who he is. He's still pretty popular now.
Yeah.
He was popular at that time of Mormon culture, we'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I went to EFY when I was a kid and listened to him a lot. So John By the Way, we would listen to old General Conference talks. Like, I never even knew that you could get like a General Conference talk on a tape and listen to it later. Like, I thought that was so cool. So she was just really brought a level of like knowledge of the gospel and learning about the church. And so I really love that about her. She did not run like Sister Smith did. And that was not a bad thing at all. It was nice to like, okay, I can kind of breathe now. We can go in for lunch once in a while or something like that. So she just brought more, where Sister Smith was very serious and hardworking and still really fun. But Sister Roper was just more, a little bit adventurous, and she liked to go out and see the town and things like that. But still a really, really fantastic missionary companion for me to have. So that was Alloa and all its beauty. And whenever I think of Scotland, or whenever anybody asks me like, what should I go visit in Scotland? I'm like, Stirling. Go visit it. It's such a historic place. It was the original capital of Scotland, and it just has my heart. So I was there for 6 months. So that's a big chunk of my mission, a third of it. So
Definitely.
and I still really love the people that are there. And yeah, Scotland. Yeah, Alloa was my place. So
that's cool.
Anyway, so transfers came, and I got sent to Beath, which is near Johnston. I don't know if either of you served there.
I served in Johnston.
Okay, all right. So Little Beath. I think we were part of the Johnston ward, though, or I think it was a ward when I was there. I can't remember, but it was a really, really small ward.
Yeah.
Little tiny area. And I was with Sister Squires, and she was just towards the end of her mission. And she was fine. We didn't get along really, really well, but we just we worked hard and did our thing. It was my only area that I had a car. I don't know if either of you had a car. And I kind of got mad at her because she would not let me drive. And I was like, because I think the rule was you could drive with an American license for a year.
Yeah,
that's true.
She would not let me drive. I was like, I just wanted to drive on the left side of the road. Like, it just looked so much fun in those little tiny cars. But one time she got really sick, and she's like, I don't think I can drive. And I was like, I will. And so I got to drive one time. But honestly, it was pretty funny. I did not like being in a car area. I felt like when we were walking around, we were talking to people more. We were sitting on the bus. We were talking to the drivers like we knew them by first name, especially in Little Alloa. We just like knew everybody because we walked everywhere. And so it was really hard for me to be in an area with a car. And I think it's the only area that sisters had a car. So I don't know.
That makes sense. When I was in Johnston, the Beath area had a senior sister couple. So they had a car.
Yeah, they would have. That's cool.
Yeah. A little different.
Yeah. One thing that was really fun about being in Scotland is my grandpa Wallace. He was a huge genealogist. And of course, he was so excited that I was in Scotland. And so he would send me stories of my ancestors. And we never really could find the Wallace. The farthest we can go back in Wallace, it was like on the Mayflower, and then we kind of lose him. So we're not really sure how Wallace fits into our timeline. I'm sure that's where he's from. But he sent me addresses. And so when I was in Johnston, I found the address of one of my ancestors and went to her house, took a picture in front of it. I mean, of course, she had died many, many years before, but her name was Hodger was her last name. So that was kind of fun. I sent the picture.
That's cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah, it was really fun. I was only in Beath for 6 weeks though, so I wasn't there for very long. And but we had some success there. We were able to teach a young girl who I believe it was her aunt was a member of the church, and she just fell in love with the church and was able to be baptized. So it was really, really fun to be a part of that in the little Johnston, little tiny ward. So
yeah, Cool.
Anyway, so yeah, I was only in Beef for 6 weeks, so not very long. So I don't think about it too much, except that Elder Loganberg was there too. So we got to serve with each other in 2 different areas. And like I said, he was just like a crack up. Like he was always just taking funny pictures, dragging us around to funny things. And I just loved Elder Loganberg. He was really, really fun to serve around. So I was glad to see he was a senior, or not a senior, but he was the older companion at the time. And it was fun to see him doing so. So it would be fun if you could get him to do this podcast. You did his brother. And
we're trying.
So he would be really fun. He was just a fantastic fun. He reminded me of one of my good friends at home, and it was just so fun to have him. So
yeah, I appreciate you calling him out, because I've reached out to him and he hasn't responded to my message. Now, I learned that when I did reach out to him, he was on holiday. I think he was in Greece or something. But so I'll forgive him. But we will certainly get him on here. I'm sure we will.
Yeah, I haven't heard from him for a long time, but I know he did work for the airline, so I could see that he maybe travels a lot. So anyway, he would be so fun. He was just a fun missionary. Anyway, so I was only there for 1 transfer, and then I went to Dundee, and I became a older companion. What do you call that? Why can't I think of that? Not a senior companion? Okay, senior companion, because we were talking about senior older missionaries. So I became a senior companion, and the other area that I think of most fondly on my mission is Dundee. I was there for 6 months as well. Did either of you serve in Dundee or near there at all?
In the stake, but I didn't serve in Dundee proper. What ward were you in? Do you remember?
I think it was the Dundee ward. There was 2 of them at the time in Dundee.
Was it the one at the Bingham Terrace Chapel? Or the smaller one on Liff Road?
No, it was a really big one that the members actually, like the whole community built. Well, like 20 years before I got there.
Probably the Stake Center.
Yeah, I think it was. It was a pretty big building, and it was a big deal that we would go out chapping and people say, I helped build your church. And so people were really proud of it, and a really big community effort at the time. So cool. Yeah, I wouldn't have been that little one. So anyway, when I went to Dundee, I was with Sister Sherwood, and she was my companion. And I was actually in a flat there was 4 sisters. And I don't have any sister. I've gone to college and had roommates and stuff, but it was so much fun to have 2 other sister missionaries there. And one of them, her name was Sister Bambarova. She was from the Czech Republic. And she was probably the funniest woman I've ever met. Like, she was always just dancing and singing, and she just had like the gospel in her. And it was so fun to be in a flat with her. And her companion was Sister Thompson, and Sister Thompson was from England. So it was the first time I was with sister missionaries that weren't from the United States. And it was so fun to see their perspective and to learn their words. Speaking of which, I forgot to tell you about learning the language in Scotland. I have a really funny story, but this is when I was in Alloa with Sister Roper. And I think it's appropriate, but still it's pretty funny. So I was getting ready in the morning. I think it was like a Sunday morning, and somebody kept knocking on our door. And I'm like, what is going on? And I think I was doing something, and Sister Roper was doing something. And she's like, you've got to get the door. And I yelled to her, I'm like, I don't have any pants on. Which in Scotland, pants means like your underpants. And so, of course, these are just little tiny flats. Everybody can hear everything. So I open the door, and there's the postie, and he's just looking at me like this big eyes, like, what's going on in there? Anyway, Sister Roper was like, trousers, Sister Fryer, trousers, not pants. Anyway, so learning the Scottish.
That's hilarious.
That's so funny.
Oh, my thing's falling out here. Let me fix that. Anyway, so sometimes you say silly American things, and they would laugh at us and things. But it was so fun to learn the language. And I think when I came home, my parents thought, like, what is she saying? She's talking so weird. And I didn't realize I had picked it up that easy. But
yep.
Started calling my mom and called her a hen. You old bitty. Things like that. I loved the words. I loved all the words. Like, I think I have a dictionary. Did you guys get one of those dictionaries that like translates American English to Scottish? Oh, you got one right there. Yes, I still have it to this day. It's so fun.
Keep them handy in case there's a word we forgot what it means.
Right, exactly. But I love like hiya and cheerio the new, and people will say, well, what language do they speak? And I'm like, well, they speak English, but there's also Gaelic, and oh, you know any Gaelic? And I never got to really be around that, but I'd say, it's a brabric moonlight nick to nick. What are you saying? I'm like, it's a beautiful moonlight night tonight. So anyway, the language was so fun to learn and to understand. Let's see. So I just got to Dundee. Is that where I was?
Yes, you were.
Let me skip ahead in my notes here. So went to Dundee, and I wanted to talk about President Wilkinson. He came just a few months after I got there. I don't know if anybody else has talked about him too much.
Yes,
he
definitely.
actually served his mission in Scotland. He would be really fun to do a podcast with. He served his mission in Scotland, and when mission presidents get their call, they're not called to a place yet. They're just called to be mission presidents, and they find out later. I don't know if it's the same way now. But he got his call, him and his wife, to be mission presidents, and he was really good friends with Jeffrey R. Holland. So they're both from St. George. They knew each other really well, and so I think he kind of pestered him, like, I would love to go to Scotland. That's where I served my mission. And anyway, it worked out. So he was thrilled to be back in Scotland, and his wife was so darling. And I just absolutely love him. He used to tell he would read children's stories that had just these really wonderful meanings to them, and like they were just like this big hug of people, like you just wanted to hug them, and they just took care of us, but very, very strict, and really taught us that same thing, that exact obedience that I felt like I really tried to do as a missionary. And they were just so wonderful. I just really loved them, and I felt like they took care of us and listened to us. And we used to have sister conferences where I think there was maybe 20 sisters in the mission, and there's like 200 total missionaries. So not a whole lot of us, but they really just took care of us and loved us. So
that's cool.
Anyway, I wanted to talk about them just a little bit. In fact, I went and visited them not too long ago, down in St. George, and went to go see them. And they were the temple presidents of the St. George Temple right before it closed. So they're still really wonderful. So
we've reached out to President Wilkinson. He has not returned my phone call yet. So I got to follow up.
I have Sister Wilkinson's cell phone number.
Please send me that.
Maybe she would respond. I don't know. I don't know how they're doing. I haven't really seen them out on social media or anything, but just wonderful people.
Yeah. We'd love to have them on.
And he told me the story when I went and visited him. They were trying to sell 51 Spylaw Road a few years ago. This was right before I'd seen him. I don't think they've sold it yet. I'm not sure. But he talked the church out of selling it. He was like, you can't do that. I don't know if it was his mission home when he was a missionary too. I don't know, but it's been in the mission for so long. I'm sure it's a prime piece of property. So anyway, he was really proud that he still saved 51 Spylaw Road. I think it was when they made the Scotland Ireland mission when they combined it. Yeah. So, and I've actually had 2 cousins serve in that mission. I have one, it's her daughter, but she just left like a couple weeks ago. So
that's cool. You'll have to let me know what her name is, because I have a nephew that's starting there in 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Scotland Ireland mission as well. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I will. I'll email it to you.
That'd be great.
So, anyway, so where I digressed, I was talking about the Wilkinsons, just wonderful, wonderful people. Anyway, so then I was in Dundee, and I was with Sister Sherwood, and we just worked really hard. We had this one woman, and actually my former companion, Sister Roper, had served in Dundee. And she told me, she's like, if you ever go to Dundee, you need to find Karen, and you need to make sure she gets baptized. And I was like, okay, sure. So when I get there, I'm like, hey, are you guys teaching Karen? And they're like, no. And I don't think they knew who she was. I don't remember who the previous missionaries were, but my companion at the time had no idea who she was. So I contacted Sister Roper and got her information. And Karen had been tracked into, and was I think it had been like a year or something since she had met the missionaries. And anyway, so I was like, okay, well, I'm supposed to go baptize her. So we went and we found her again, and we started teaching her. And she was a really tough one, but I think I got there in October and she got baptized in March. So
Wow.
someone that I just really loved, worked a lot with. The members there was just absolutely wonderful. The Palmers were especially, they were he was the mission leader and she was a stake missionary, I think is what they used to be. They were stake missionaries and they were wonderful with all the people that we taught. Another really great family was the McPhees, and they had a daughter. Her name was Emma Williams, and she was about our age. She might have been like 19 or 20, so just a little bit younger than us. And we just absolutely adored her. She loved to come out with the missionaries. I think she was in uni at the time or something. And we were able to start teaching her brother's girlfriend. So Emma was just really a fantastic person. She actually ended up serving a mini mission. I don't know if they do those anymore, if they did those when you were there.
Not when we were there, but I've heard that there were many missionaries since that point in time. So that's definitely.
Yeah. So they were just local, but they would go to another area and they would act as a missionary. They had a companion. And I think it more happened when there was like an odd number, especially sister missionaries or something like that. So she went and served a mini mission. And she, in fact, ended up, I don't know why this was a theme, marrying a missionary from my mission and moved to the United States. So she actually lives in Utah now.
Cool.
So Emma Williams. And then there was also Emma Stronach. They were just young girls about our age, and they were the best like member missionaries. They were always out going with us and helping us teach people. And so
I knew Emma Stronach, actually. Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, because she was in the Montrose ward. So I served there for 6 months, and I obviously know their family very well, but I've met her several times.
I think she somehow met somebody and she moved to a different country as a member of the church. I don't know if they met like through online dating or something like that. So she actually ended up moving away from Scotland. And
I'll ask her parents when I see them in the near future.
Okay. All right. That would be cool. Yeah. So Emma Stronach, I loved her. She was just a wonderful missionary there. And then the Palmers, I don't know. They were just newlyweds at the time. I bet they're still in that ward. They're just really, her name was Tuesday, which I thought was a pretty cool name. Let's see, what else do I have? In that ward was Brother Wallace. And so we had an instant connection with our name, and also Emma Stronach. And I got them to record on a tape. This is like before DVDs and CDs and stuff. I'm so old. But my brother would do that on his mission. He would just record things and send them home. So I would try to record stuff. But I got them both to record To a Mouse, the poem by Robbie Burns, and they pronounce it To a Moose. But I got them to record. Brother Wallace just had like the strongest Scottish accent of anybody that I'd met on my entire mission. So I was like, you have to record this. Of course, like my family listened to it and they're like, we can't understand a word of it. So I thought that was pretty funny. And then Emma Stronach, I got her to record it too, just so they could see. My mom's an English teacher. She teaches high school, so she loved it. I think she played it for her students and stuff. So
it's fun.
It was fun. Other than fun things, you probably did this. We went and visited St. Andrews. Did you go over there to the golf course?
Definitely.
And then they had an abbey there that was really beautiful. The other places I loved was Dunnottar Castle. Did you go out to Dunnottar Castle? I love to go visit all the places. So
yes, beautiful castle.
Yeah.
Or football on P-Day, is that what you just said?
P-Day, we play football, and I am not a football player. I'm a runner. Like, I can play sports by myself, but a ball's coming at me and peace out. So I tried. I actually was reading my journal, and there was this one. It said, I actually made a goal today. So I was like, oh, okay, it must not have been that bad. But yeah, we played a lot of football. We'd bring all our investigator kids and everything. So that was really fun. I told you I'm a bit of a foodie. I remember there was a Pizza Hut in Dundee we went to. And do you remember did you guys ever eat beans and toast? So it had like those little beans. Yeah. They had beans on the pizza. I was like, what? This is not Pizza Hut. But we just thought it was the funniest thing. ever. And that's where I learned about kebabs. Did you guys have kebabs and
Definitely.
Indian food? Oh, it was so good. What I thought I would share some food things too. I don't know if other people do, but I love
Go for it.
like fish and chips, but a chippy, I think is what it was called. It was like bread with chips or fries and then HP brown sauce. And I just thought it was like carb overload, right? But it was like so good.
It was like a sandwich, right?
It was a sandwich, yeah, with French fries is the only thing in the middle. I remember one time, actually, my husband for his 40th birthday wanted to go to Disney World. So we went to Disney World, and they have like at Epcot, all the places around the world. Well, they have the UK there. And I was like, oh, they had a chippy. I was like, oh, let's go get some fish and chips. And I'm like, do you guys have HP brown sauce? And they were like, huh? I'm like, oh, you guys are really British. How could this be? You don't make brown sauce. What's wrong with you? So I was a little bit disappointed in Disney World's fish and chips. But
having been there recently, you're right. There's no HP brown sauce. There are people that are there definitely from the UK.
Right. They did have accents. They must have been Englishers. I have no idea.
But I'm sure they're like, how did you know about that, you dumb American? How did you understand what brown sauce is?
Yeah, they're like, we got ketchup. No.
Exactly.
Ketchup with that. Other things. Oh, in Iowa especially, they had sweetie vans is what we called them. It was like
sweetie vans.
It was like an ice cream van, here how they have an ice cream van, but it was just all sweets. So all the candies, they call them sweets, right? A long time ago.
They told us to avoid those vans in Glasgow, so
well, they didn't allow sisters in Glasgow, so that kind of makes sense.
There you go. There's your reason. All these years later, Joelle.
Yeah, they still won't let them in. But Maltesers, Crunchies. Did you guys have Crunchies? I found them here. All their sodas, like Lilt was my favorite. It's kind of like Squirt. We have Squirt here.
Yeah.
I love the Sweetie Van. In fact, my first companion, I made up a song about him. Was like, we know the Sweetie Van. He drives this. Anyway, you don't want to hear me sing too much, but my companion would make me sing on the doorstep sometimes, and I can't sing. Anyway, Sweetie Vans, I loved that. What are some of the other foods I was thinking of? Oh, mushy peas. Did you guys have mushy peas, like canned peas?
Oh, yes. Yep. It was terrible, but
yes, so growing up, like my dad thought peas, I think he would eat them frozen, but nobody else in my family ate peas. Like, no, you don't eat peas. And there was this one, her name was Linda. She was a member of the church, but she didn't go. And she had a little boy named Ryan, and we would visit her often. And she just loved those sister missionaries, especially. And she told me one time, she's like, if you eat mushy peas, I'll go to church. And I was like, I'm doing it. So I have a picture of me like eating this big bowl of mushy peas. I don't know. So funny. I need to get some.
Did she go?
Too. What's that? And she did. Yeah. She went to church the next Sunday. I don't know that she ever went again, but totally worth it. Yeah. I mean, we'll do anything, right? For investigators and less actives when we're missionaries.
That's right.
So, yeah. Anyway, I loved Dundee. My next companion there, I became a trainer, and Sister Klumper was my companion, and she was from France. So it was really fun to have her, and she just had this funny perspective about life, and we had a really good time. She struggled with the language a little bit at first, as you can imagine, but she knew English. In other countries, they teach people other languages besides their own. So she knew English really well, but didn't have any training like in the MTC or anything for language. She really struggled, and actually she ended up going home. She was with me for about a month or so. And but we had a really good time. She was a wonderful person. I still keep in touch with her, and just a really beautiful person. So, but anyway, I didn't get to be her companion for very long, and she didn't stay in the mission for too long, but a wonderful person. And then I got Sister Adams, and we were only together for a few weeks, and she was from England, but we just really hit it off really well. And she was with me when Karen actually got baptized. So it was fun for her to be a part of that. And I think I left shortly after Karen was baptized. So I felt like Karen was going to really good hands though. So I appreciated her, and Sister Adams was just an amazing missionary. She would be fun to interview too. She actually lives in the Netherlands now with her husband there, but she is from England, and she was a really fantastic missionary. I also met Sister Wright there. She was actually they took the other missionaries out of our flat for a while, and I was really sad about that because we just had so much fun together. So I don't know if you were ever in flats where you had more than 2 missionaries, but it was a riot.
They did away with that because of your riot that you guys had.
Probably. We were good missionaries, but it was so fun to have that. So
yeah, we had like areas with multiple companionships, but we all had separate areas to live because they knew of the frivolities that would happen as a result. So
yeah, something must have happened because they did split us up for some reason. So who knows? But it was fun. I loved Dundee. I loved everything about it. I remember a few other things that we did. It was around Christmas time, and we were giving out nativity pass-along cards, and we made American chocolate chip cookies, and we put them in a bag, and then we tied on somehow, or I don't know, the pass-along card, and we would get on the bus, and we'd hand it to the bus driver, and we get off at the next stop, wait for another bus, hand it to the bus driver or anybody that was on the bus and stuff, just to pass them along and to share a little bit of our American spirit. So it was really fun. Yeah. I was in Dundee for Christmas, and we got permission to go to midnight mass on Christmas Eve. I don't know if either of you were able to do that or even thought of doing it.
I did, yeah.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
Well, I went to a Presbyterian service, so it wasn't a mass as such.
Okay, yeah, it might have been. It was Church of England, so yeah. But it felt very Catholic to me. But you're right, it wasn't Catholic. I don't know what they called it, but we called it midnight mass, I guess. So must have been.
Yeah.
It was very like ritual. It was really beautiful, though. We got permission to stay out late, and then on our way home, it was snowing that night, and so it was kind of a magical Christmas Eve, and then get to call my family. So, and that was when we only talked to our family twice a year. So I think we were on the phone for like 4 or 5 hours on Christmas Day and
nice
and stuff. But it was really beautiful. I liked being a missionary in the mission. I thought it was a little like you miss your family, right? But it was just kind of a little bit more magical for Christmas. So anyway, that was one thing we got to do that was really fun. Let's see if there's anything else I can remember. A few other things that we did, and we got to do this a couple times, is we went to the tattoo. Did you go to the tattoo in Edinburgh every year? Yeah, so I got to do that a couple times. It was fun to go over to Edinburgh and go to the tattoo. Didn't matter where we were in the mission. It seems like everybody went. So I'm glad. I hope they still do that tradition, because I love that we get to celebrate all the traditions of Scotland. In Dundee, there was a member of the church. He was a piper, and he had the most amazing like cheeks that would puff out, and he could play the pipes. And I loved all that. Another thing I got to do when my grandma Wallace, she sent me a check. This was in 2000, right? So this is a lot of money. She sent me a check for $300, and she said, "You need to go buy yourself a kilt, like get a Wallace tartan kilt." So I got permission to go to Edinburgh on a P day. I never served there, and went to a shop and got a custom made Wallace kilt. And so I wear it all the time, like especially around Christmas at church. And I got all my family Wallace tartan ties, and actually worked.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys did a lot of service. I think we were able to do 4 hours of service. And we would work in they were called, I wrote it down somewhere. They're called like the little secondhand shops. They kind of had a different name.
Charity shop.
Yes, we worked in a charity shop, and we would find old kilts, and I bought them for all my family. But I did find a little boy Wallace tartan kilt that I bought. I actually found, I was reading it to my son because his name's Wallace. I'm like, "Look, I bought this for you." He won't wear it. He won't wear it whatsoever. You have the coolest name, and you won't wear a kilt. So maybe one day he'll go to Scotland, and then they'll think it's cool. I loved the charity work that we did, or the service. We also worked at like Alzheimer's of Scotland. That was in Dundee, and we would go to this place where I just had Alzheimer's. Like, it was kind of like a daycare for Alzheimer's patients, and we would sing with them. So it was fun to learn like kind of like folk Scottish songs, and we would have tea and toast with them and just sing with them. So those were some of the other things I really loved to do, was some of the service, and then working in charity shops. So I don't know if you ever did that or went to nursing homes or anything like that.
We had some crazy things like that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's like you said, abnormal for like what you think service is as a member of the church growing up. But yeah, it was definitely in the moment you're thinking, man, this is a total waste of time as a missionary because you just have so many things that you have going on. But at the same time, you can look back now and say, yeah, that was definitely a good use of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we would talk to the like owners of the charity shops about the church, and they were often investigators, and they'd invite us over for dinner. And so I did really enjoy a lot of that too. Anyway, so that was Dundee. I was there for 6 months as well, and I still really tried to work hard, and I love Dundee. I love everything about it. So actually there's a member of my ward right now. She's over near Dundee, and I'm so excited for her. So
nice.
Nope, my ears I have molars, these fall up. Okay, let's see, where did I go next? After that, I went to Livingston. Did any of you serve in Livingston? Do you even know what it is?
Not personally, no.
It was kind of like a little suburb of Edinburgh, I think, and we called it the cement jungle. It was just row houses. That's all it was. It was like in the middle of a big city, and it was so ugly, and just these like stone row houses, and that's all it was. We called it the cement jungle. And my companion there was Sister Webster, and Sister Webster was 64 years old. So this was a really big deal for me, and especially someone who like was basically from the beginning of her mission taught you have to run and you have to do as much as you can to like serve the people of Scotland. And then I had Sister Webster, and she was so kind. Like I called her my gran. Like she was really sweet, but she just didn't have the stamina of a young missionary. So it was really hard. We called them the old biddies. I don't know if that is like a very nice thing to say or if they cared or whatever, but there was 4 older sisters in our mission at the time. We call them old biddies. She was one of them. And actually one of them passed away. And so there was just 3. And so I think they would rotate to be with a young sister just for a little bit, and they'd kind of rotate back. So
there was a senior sister that passed away while on her mission?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was we were all a little shocked. Like, oh, we didn't see that coming. You have to be fit to go on a mission. You have to do a lot of, go through medical.
It would be a bad place to go, in my opinion.
No, it wouldn't. I mean, you're serving the Lord, so it's a good way. Yeah. Right. So Livingston was hard because it was just this ugly cement houses, and but the ward was really good there, and they had a lot of strong members, and we were able to teach a lot of people. In fact, Paul McGee was baptized there. He had a family member who was a member. We were able to teach him. And so we still found a lot of success, but I did have some funny, like we would just have to go in and take a rest in the afternoon and some things like that. So President Wilkinson was just really kind, and that's okay, Sister Wallace, you guys can do that. You do what you can. But for a 64-year-old, she was pretty amazing and pretty spunky, and she hung out with all us young missionaries, and she gave it to us, and was just really, really fun. So I did appreciate her, even though I did struggle a little bit with that. But it wasn't anything to do with her. She was just really kind. But one funny story, and I don't think she's probably alive anymore, so maybe she'll be hearing this story and get a chuckle out of it. But she snored really, really loud. And when you're a missionary, you have to sleep in the same room as your companion, and you're exhausted, right? Like for the most part, like I slept so well as a missionary because we just worked so hard during the day. But she snored so loud, and we had a dryer in another room. So I moved my mattress into that other room and I turned the dryer on, and that's how I would fall asleep every night. And the rule is, right, you have to sleep in the same room as your companion. That's the rule. And so I was like, I don't care, I have to sleep. And she snitched on me. She told President Wilkins, she's like, Sister Wallace is not in the same room with me. And so we had interviews, and she told him, and I was next. And he's like, hey, Sister Webster told me that you're not sleeping in the same room as her. And I was like, President, she snores so loud. Like, I can't sleep. And he's like, you're fine, Sister Walsh. You can stay sleeping in that other room. I was so thankful. I was like, oh my gosh. But I was kind of mad at her that she snitched on me. But I mean, right, exact obedience is what we're going for here. And we were trying to be good missionaries. And anyway, so we kind of
Well, did you tell Sister Webster that she snored?
Yeah. Yeah.
But she was like, well, put up with it.
Yeah, I don't know. She wanted to make sure we were following those rules. And
oh gosh.
I wasn't following one of them. So she did.
A good story.
I got permission from President to sleep in the other room with the dryer on, so it could drown her out. So
us
anyway,
elders who had snoring companions, we just throw stuff at each other until people would stop snoring.
Yeah, maybe I didn't feel comfortable doing that to somebody that's like your grandma, but maybe it was a younger companion, I would have. But that's understandable. I'm pretty sure I do that to my husband sometimes. Shut up. But anyway, so kind of a funny story, but she was really sweet, and she worked hard for what she could do. And so we had a good time together. We were together for 2 transfers, so about 3 months. And then I thought she was going to get transferred, but I did. So it was just for my last area. I went to Beath, which was where was it? It was in the Glasgow area, but like way south of Glasgow.
You went back to Beath?
No, Beath. I'm sorry. Saltcoats. Why did I say Beath? I went to Saltcoats, which was like south of Paisley. I think it was the Irvine area.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And like from Beath, you could see Ireland, I think, or like way out there. So it was kind of fun.
Saltcoats is on the coast in the Irvine ward, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's right across from the Isle of Arran.
That's right.
But we could see Ireland from it, so we thought that was pretty cool. Like, we're on the edge of our mission. Like, here we are. It was pretty cool. But yeah, it was a really great area. They had a really, really strong ward in that area. It wasn't in Saltcoats. I think it was in Irvine. I can't remember what it was. But my companion there was Sister Grant, and she was really wonderful. We worked hard. We taught a lot of people, had some fun. I was looking through my journals because I couldn't remember it a whole lot. There was actually, I think, like 8 or 10 missionaries in that ward even. There was 2 other sister missionaries and a couple set of elders as well. So a lot of missionaries and a lot of support from the ward. And I read a funny story. I've been reading through my journal, and there was this funny story of someone we went in. I don't think she was a member. We were just visiting her, maybe an investigator, maybe less active. I don't know, but she was a lot older and she couldn't see very well. And, you know, people just love to feed the missionaries, and sometimes it wasn't very good, right? Sometimes they feed you very funny things. So she's like making us something, and she gets out 2 pieces of bread, and they're just covered in mold. But she can't see very well. She's this older lady, can't see, and she sticks them in the toaster. And Sister Grant and I are just dying. Like, what are we going to do? We can't eat this. We're going to die. Like, she's going to make us sick. Like, what is happening here? And she didn't pay attention to them, and they totally burnt. And we're just joking later. We're like, Heavenly Father is totally watching out for us, even with the little things of moldy toast. So I think we told her, we're like, we'll go buy you some more bread. So we went around the corner, got her to the corner shop, got her some bread. But I wrote in my journal there, I'm like, the Heavenly Father is totally watching out for missionaries. So I love the members. There were so many of them that were wonderful. I have some other fun things. This was from the area too. We had somebody that was an investigator. I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's like a thistle.
Cool.
It's a pen.
That's really neat.
Pull your pen out here, and he made it for me, and it's a piece of wood, just a solid piece of wood. So his name was Rob, and he was an investigator.
Wow.
That was there. So that was really fun. I actually have this little kilt. Like I have this too. This is a Wallace tartan right here, and this is a little boy's kilt that I got.
Is so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, kind of fun. And I brought this other thing. I don't know if they do this anymore, if they did, but we had these books and we would pass them around. Did you guys do
the tea book, right?
Is that what it is? And then we would write
testimonies, right?
Yeah, you're right. And it's falling apart here, but like all the elders and sisters that you served around, did you guys do this?
No.
No? But you heard about it?
They had them going around. Zach and I.
But you didn't do them?
Yeah.
So anyway, it was kind of fun to go back and read through those. They are just quirky and funny. You're just making fun of each other. There's pictures of missionaries like sleeping where they're not supposed to, or just doing stupid, funny things. And anyway, kind of a fun little book. But like I said, it's totally fallen apart. So I didn't know if they still did that, but I thought that was a pretty fun thing.
Yeah, we can tell you that they definitely did it. Jack trained me, and Jack didn't have one, and then I watched the passing around and the posting it to each other, and I was like, that is just an utter headache. I don't want that. So I didn't do it, but filled out plenty of them for companions and other missionaries.
But you just didn't have one yourself. Well, that's very nice of you to not get it, but to participate in it. So anyway, kind of a fun little treasure right there. It's got elders and sisters' names and where they're from and stuff. So that was pretty fun. So towards the end of my mission, actually, I want to tell a funny story. There was this one time we went to Edinburgh. There was a man speaking. His name was Don Lind, and he was actually an astronaut for NASA, and he was a member of the church. And he was the Portland Temple president, and that was my temple district before we got the Medford Temple. Anyway, he came and he spoke, and it was really fabulous. But the Scottish people, they can get pretty dramatic sometimes, and we were singing a song like at the end of this fireside, I guess is what you would call it, and we were singing a song. I think it was like Battle Hymn of the Republic. And towards the end, like everybody's standing up, like singing at the top of their voices. And it was just like this marching, like heroic song. And it was so Scottish. Like, it's just this memory that I just love. And I think of often when I'm like, that's what the people were like. We kind of called them M&Ms. Like they're hard and, they want to fight. They're Scottish, but they melt in your mouth.
There you go. That's actually a pretty good description of the Scottish people.
Yeah.
Very, very rugged and hard on the outside, but once you get to the middle, it's very sweet.
Right. Exactly. They were just fabulous people. So that was kind of a funny story that I had. Also, President Monson, he wasn't the president at the time. I think he was first counselor. He came to visit our mission with Elder Worthland, and I think Elder Williams mentioned this. He was the AP at the time that had to arrange for lunch. And kind of a funny story about that. Some of the elders showed up in their kilts, and President Monson was really upset with them. He's like, "You do not wear a kilt. You are missionaries. We had our uniform." And I thought that was pretty funny. You can see him being a little feisty about things like that. But we were all like, "What? People wear kilts all the time to church." And we thought that was pretty funny. But he did get mad at some of the elders for wearing their kilts to go see him. But it was pretty amazing that he came to Scotland. He came to Dundee, and pretty awesome. Let's see. So towards the end of my mission, we had a zone conference in Glasgow, and this was in September. And President Wilkinson's son came to visit, and his son. He has lots of sons, but this was Tyler Wilkinson. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he was in a car accident when he was about 18 years old. He was paralyzed. So Tyler came to visit us, and we had a zone conference, and it was absolutely amazing. And just to hear him speak, and of course, President Wilkinson, we all loved as well. And he spoke. And at the end of conference, we're all just gathered around, just chit-chatting with each other like we like to do when all us missionaries get together. And President Wilkinson, he stopped us. He said, I have to tell you something, and everybody needs to sit down. You need to go sit down. And he said, the United States has just been bombed. So this was September 11th, 2001. And here I am 2 weeks before I'm supposed to go home for my mission. And we're like, what do you mean? What are the Twin Towers? And, I'm like from the West Coast. I'm like, I don't know what the Twin Towers are. So kind of got a little bit of information. He's like, all of you need to go home right now, and you need to stay in your flats. They didn't know if they were targeting Americans or what was going on. So we all had to go home. And of course, on the way, we're like stopping at every shop that has a television, and it's on every television and all the news. So we're like, okay, we're kind of getting an idea. Now they bombed. No, we thought it was a bomb. Now they bombed the Pentagon. Like, what is going on? So a little bit scary. And but that was kind of an interesting day because it was high and then low. And then I wasn't sure how I was going to get home. All the airlines were stopped. Nobody was going into the United States at the time. So I was a little bit nervous. And we had to stay in our flat for a couple of days, but then they decided they weren't going to target us necessarily. They didn't really know what was going on, but we were able to leave our flat. And anyway, we continued to be good missionaries and work hard. And and then I went home. My release date was September 26th, 2001. And it did take me a bit to get home. Most of my flights had been canceled. I couldn't take a carry-on. They were really strict. I couldn't even have like nail clippers. Like, they were really, really strict about everything. And anyway, so it took me probably a day and a half to get home. And I went on a lot of different flights. I think I went from Edinburgh to London, and then I think London to Seattle to Portland to Medford. Like, it was this really long day. And also, I don't know if this is still a thing, but when I got to Seattle, they said, have you been on any farms in the UK? And I was like, well, sure. I mean, we went on farm. We went all over the place, right? And it was mad cow disease was a big deal at the time. So wow. They kind of looked at me and they're like, what? They're like, clean off your feet. You had to clean off your feet. I don't know if you guys had to do this, like clean off your feet. No. Really good. And it was 9/11. So everybody was really like strict. Like, it was really tricky to get home. But I made it. I guess I wasn't too scared. Made it with all my stuff, and ran to my family. I just really missed them, but not enough to. I think it was really sad to go home. My mission. I think I was in the middle of 2 dates, and he's like, "You can go this day, or you can stay 6 weeks and go this day." And I wanted to stay forever, so it was really hard to go home. Not just because of 9/11, but I just loved being a missionary. I loved the Scottish people. I loved working hard, and just really showing that love to the Lord. So that's how my mission ended 2 weeks after 9/11. But some of the best couple of years of my life. So something I don't know about you guys, but I think about my mission in one way, like either if it's Scotland or a person or just something almost every single day of my life. Which people had told me that before, and I was like, what? And I'm sure people get annoyed, like, oh, I used to live in Scotland, and I'm sure they get annoyed with me, like, yeah, we know. But it's such a part of me. It's so ingrained in me. It's so much love for that country and the people there, and really grew as a person, as a disciple of Christ. I knew what I wanted to do with my life after that. Anyway.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That really comes through as you've talked to us, how much you have an affinity for your time over there. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it was really wonderful. So,
and for us Americans, Joelle, like, we all wanted to stay a little bit longer. Those darn visas are a thing that keeps us all from doing that. But you're right. It was one of those things, like, so I served January to January, and my parents were like, do you want to come home early for Christmas? And I was like, no, I'll see you in a few weeks, because I really did. I wanted to be there. It was such a unique part of life, and the last thing you want is to cut it short.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
That's
sure.
awesome. Well, we really appreciate your experiences you shared. You've talked a little bit about your time with the Clydes and the Wilkinsons. Is there any other particular memories that, or even just your thoughts beyond what you've shared about those wonderful people you served under?
No, I mean, they were just hardworking, just a love of the gospel that I feel like, I mean, my family loves the gospel. My family's from Utah, and so I have ancestors, but I never like been around somebody like the Clydes or the Wilkinsons that really just exuded that kind of spirit. So I really appreciated that they had that. Just love for the gospel, love to serve, and love for the Lord. So love them so much. It would be really fun to hear some of their thoughts. Some other people that I thought of though that you could contact, I think I've told you a little bit, is Jamie Jensen and or Roper now.
Yeah.
The cooks, so Sarah Smith and Riley Cook, the Rogers, Anna Burton and Chris Rogers. Steve Harward, he served in Sterling, and he was companions with Paul Williams. I think he runs the website for our age or our mission time on Facebook. He gets us all going to the reunions and things like that. And then actually, the ward I live in, I've been there about 20 years, and my first bishop, his name's Kelly Thompson. He served his mission in Scotland. And he's now the temple president of the Medford Temple, and just a really, really dear friend. And Scotland has very much connected us. And he would be really fun if maybe I could ask him if I can send him your email or something.
Oh, yes, please. Share the podcast with him and tell him we'd love to have him.
I absolutely will. I think he probably served in the 70s. His oldest daughter's my age, so he was probably like 74, 75. So I think it would be fun to hear from him. He was a fantastic missionary. He goes back all the time. He loves Scotland. So it's our connection together. So Kelly Thompson would be really fun too. So those are some of the missionaries I thought of.
That's great.
That you would enjoy.
Awesome. We'll do the best that we can to contact the sisters that you served with, as well as those who have husbands that are appropriate to our podcast.
Yeah.
One thing we do ask as well is if you share it with them, know that the invitation is open, and we love referrals. So the easiest way people can get in touch with us, if they want to reach out, they can go to our website, which is 51spylaw.com. Pretty easy to remember for those of us there. And there's a little button at the top of the main page where you can fill out a contact form, and then we can do what we did today with you, Joelle, and just figure out a time that works and get them on our schedule for a future conversation. It'd be fun.
I think that'd be fun. I actually, when they announced the Scotland Temple in conference just recently, I started screaming. My kids were like, "Mom, we can't hear the rest of them." So we had to pause it, rewind it, listen to it. It was just like a miracle, right? Come true. And so I contacted some of my companions, and I told them about this podcast then. And so I think they would definitely be interested. So they were just as excited. And I think we're all wanting to be there, right? When it's open house or dedicated or whatnot. But I'm already saving up my money so I can go back. So I've never been back. I would love to. I'd love to take my husband and show him. So yeah,
definitely. We're all looking forward to that day. Yeah. Mostly, I think we're all looking forward to knowing where it will be, because that's a big factor within the area in and around Edinburgh. I know they have mission or the temples in some places that they call them this, and then they're in the outlying areas of that.
The Medford Temple is not in Medford, so
yeah.
So I was thinking, I wonder how big the property of 51 Spylaw Road is, but wouldn't that be cool? I
think the neighbors would have a fit about that for sure.
Probably. But, maybe it'll be in Iowa.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, I've heard that Sterling is a very viable option because it is fairly central to everyone in Scotland. So we'll see. It'll be fun to follow that.
Yep, I've been waiting to hear where it's going to be. So excited.
Yeah, as are we. Well, again, Joelle, thank you so much for your time tonight and sharing your experiences. And also the preparation that you did, like your notes, your reading of your journals, the stories you shared, they were fantastic. So thank you.
I have a bad memory, so it was good to have that.
I never would have guessed that, because you did a fantastic job tonight. So just as a final thought as well, we just want to express to you our love. We're so grateful that you were one of our sisters in the Scotland Edinburgh Mission. We're so indebted to the sisters who could touch the hearts of people that us boys couldn't do on the Scottish soil. So again, thank you for being one of our sisters in Scotland, and we again love you and are grateful that you joined us tonight.
Yeah, this is so much fun. I was so excited that you guys are doing this. So definitely will be listening to a lot of them.
Good. Well, thank you again. We'll bid you a hearty cheerio, and we'll talk more soon. Okay.
Cheerio the new. Yep, for sure.
Bye, Joelle.
All right. Thanks. Bye.